Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 3rd, 2014 meeting of Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors. If you could please all stand and join Pledge Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Jeannie, could you call the roll?
Mrs. Ekman.
Here.
Mr. Sorgini.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Ms. Zimmerman. Absent.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for our little late start here. Before this evening's meeting, we had an executive session, and we discussed real estate matters, personnel matters, and some legal issues. Also, after our last meeting in March, we convened to an executive session, which was a personnel issue. All right, so moving on. The first item on our agenda this evening is our consent agenda. And would one of the board members like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions on that motion? Any questions from the board? Questions from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. We have some presentations and commendations this evening. The first one, if our Eagle Scout, Evan Koss. Evan, if you could come forward. We'd like to start with you. And Carl Lukens will be helping with that, as well as Patrick. You're going to join him? So this presentation, you have the, okay. This presentation is for Evan Koss, a Boy Scout of Troop 119, on his attainment of the rank of Eagle Scout.
Hey, Evan, how are you? Congratulations. Thank you. It's my distinct honor this evening to present Evan Koss with a proclamation in honor of Eagle Scout recipient. Whereas Lower Providence Township takes pride in its sense of community and citizen involvement, and whereas the Eagle Scout is obligated to live his life with honor, loyalty, courage, cheerfulness, and service, and the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scout candidates to undertake worthy projects to improve their neighborhoods and community, and whereas Evan Koss, a member of Boy Scout Troop 119, Lafayette District, Cradle of Liberty Council, chose as his Eagle Scout project improvements to the Eagleville Park, including the construction and installation of picnic tables, birdhouses, and a bat box. And whereas Evan's commitment to leadership and service is demonstrated by his progress through the scouting ranks to achieve the prestigious Eagle Scout Award, in recognition thereof, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Providence Township extends its sincere congratulations to Evan Koss on his achievement of the rank of Eagle Scouts, the highest rank in Boy Scouts. Resolved and adopted this third day of April 2014. Why don't you, would you like to come up and, is that your sister?
Yes.
Come on up and grab a picture.
We can have him say a few words about
Absolutely.
the project. In there next to your brother.
Can you tell us all a little bit about your project?
Sure. For my project, I built 2 picnic tables, 4 bat boxes, and 4 birdhouses here in the park. They're throughout the trails for right around the park, and they look pretty good right now. If I do say so myself. and I hope they're inhabited. If not, that'd be really bad. But I don't really have too much to say about it. I'd like to thank the township for letting me do the project here, so I could get my Eagle rank. I'd also like to thank my parents for helping me get there too. But thank you.
Thanks. Shake the hands of the rest of the supervisors out there.
Okay, next up for our presentations, item 2B, recognition of Parks and Recs Director Carl Lukens, recipient of the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society Distinguished Member Award. Wow, excellent. Wonderful.
Carl, why don't you-
You have to say what you had to do to get that award.
Yeah.
You gotta help us.
I didn't have to do anything.
No, it's my
Oh,
honor this
please.
evening to recognize Carl for his Distinguished Membership Award in the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society. I've had the pleasure of being board liaison to the Parks and Rec board for the last couple months now, and I can tell you without a doubt that Carl and his staff work tremendously hard in developing programs for the township, one that are interesting, that are fun, that are innovative, and they're not just recycling old projects. I think one of the neat things that we came up with recently was cupcake decorating for some of the women here, and even guys that were interested in it. But it was
only women. It was
that
girls'
was
night out.
yeah, it was girls' night out. You know, we're equal opportunity around here, but it was girls' night out, and we had a full class and full participation. So I would like to thank Carl on behalf of the board for continuing to do an outstanding job here coming up with the project. So Carl, congratulations on your recognition.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for a job well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is item 2C, our solar energy project. We will be getting a status report from Blue Sky Power. And Matt Stanger, are you going to help us out?
I can stand at the podium if you
No,
prefer, but
you're more comfortable. You can probably see. I don't know if you have anything up on the.
I don't have an actual visual presentation, but the status of the project, this report was intended to come at 50%, but in fact, because once construction really got going and the weather improved, as we all know, we had a really tough, snowy, icy, cold winter. It was difficult for the contractors to get this done earlier in the year, but once they got going, they really got it done quickly, and we're actually completed. The project is finished. The only thing remaining is the net meter installation, which is on PICO. So the contractor who was awarded the project is finished with his work. I don't know if any of you have seen the project. I'm sure some of you have. It looks really nice. I think they've done a great job. The signage looks fantastic, and the kiosk looks really great. I think it's really actually wound up being a better project than what we'd originally contemplated here at the facility, because it's got the kiosk built into the building right next to the park and has great access to the public, and being adjacent to the park as it is. There are a few items remaining for us as the township's consultant to close out the project, and they're mainly kind of bookkeeping and closing out the Department of Energy grant, getting the remaining funds issued, and finishing up all the paperwork that Susan and I love to do so much for this project. It's a couple other things. There's the educational component that we drafted for the school districts and for the public really generally. We can kind of put the fine touches on that, but I think it's meant to be kind of a living document, a living program for the schools to adopt and adapt as their own, and that'll be part of our submittals to DOE to get the final approval for the 0% matching on the grant. So just a couple of quick data points about the project. The final project size was a little over 20 kilowatts DC. It'll produce about 23,000 kilowatt hours a year. And just to give you some frame of reference, that's roughly what 2 homes, average American homes, would use in an entire year. So significant amount of power that'll produce. And it'll save, at least at current utility rates, the township over $2,000 a year, which will only grow as the utility rates increase, which every professional in this industry projects that they will. So it's a great project for the township. It's been part of a larger project, which I summarized and sort of kind of put together in the report that I think you have in front of you. Included the landfill study, which I was here about a year ago to report on, as well as working on all the grant issues surrounding both of those projects. So it's a completed project. It took a little bit more time than we anticipated, but it changed several times through its course. But I think what we wound up with the township has now is a really good project, and I know I'm proud of it. I hope the township is as well.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, and we appreciate your dedication in staying with us. This is a long time coming, and we're very excited to get out there. And for any of our residents that happen to frequent the Esky Park, if you park in the parking lot, you can see on the side of the one of the pole barns is a cutout, and that's where the screen will be. So you'll see how much power we're using, and you'll be able to monitor and that's where the educational component will be visible, right, Matt?
That's a large part of it. That's the visible part of it that changes and kind of displays for the public's benefit what the system is doing, how it works, sort of kind of displaying the environmental benefits, how much energy it produces, and kind of how it works. And again, that in conjunction with the documents that we drafted for a curriculum together is the educational component and sort of the community outreach aspect of it. So,
Excellent. Thank you for coming tonight and give us that update.
my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business, item 3. 3A, discussion and consideration of refinancing of the Lower Providence Township Del Valle 2008 Note B, which is due to expire June 25th of 2014. And with us this evening, Lucian Calhoun. Well, you ready to come forward, Lucian? Good to see you.
Good evening. As you said, the interest rate on the portion of the 2008 note is scheduled to terminate on June 25th. That current rate is a little over 3.72%. On June 25th, unless the township elects to convert to a new fixed rate, the rate would revert to a variable interest rate. And currently, that interest rate is less than 1%. It's 0.96%. But it's a rate that adjusts weekly. The average variable rate since 1999 has been approximately 3%. And in the pro formas that we sent to Rich and Sue, we showed the rate escalating from its current rate up to 3%. If the township elected to fix the rate and also give itself an option to fix the rate again, or change the rate again if rates are lower in the future after 5 years, the rate today would be approximately 2.44%, so which is almost 1.3% lower than the current fixed rate. It would be our recommendation that the township do that, fix it to maturity, and give itself an option. Principally, to eliminate uncertainty about rising interest rates. And kind of the real rule of thumb in finance is when interest rates are low, you fix. You go long. Even though variable rates may be very, very low, it's advantageous to take advantage of what are still historically low long-term interest rates. The other two-thirds of the 2008 note also have rates that will terminate in 2016 and 2017. And if rates are higher, in those years, then it would be my recommendation to go variable rate with those until you get through the higher interest rate regime. So, the principal logic that I have in recommending what is a higher rate than the variable rate is to eliminate the uncertainty and to give township flexibility and room to absorb variable rate debt if rates go up in the future. And there's no cost, no fees, no filings required to DCED, but an official action of this board authorizing the conversion to a new fixed rate is required.
Okay, do we have any, I guess we could put this on the floor for a motion and then ask for questions unless we have some uncertainty. We don't want to go forward with a motion.
Well, I would make the motion that we refinance the Delaval 2008 Note B at the fixed rate of 2.44%. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the rate actually won't be fixed until after, there's no authority
Sure.
to fix it, but we'll fix it after.
So to approve it at the fixed rate.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I would second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so now we can have questions. Do we have any questions from board members?
No? Sound logic?
I have a question. It's really, I guess it's really not for you, Lucian, but we have some pending road work that we might be adding to this year, and funding for that might be an issue. So, Rich, is this something that we should consider? I don't even know if this is a possibility, but we add to the amount that this current loan already,
Yeah, I wouldn't add to this particular loan. I will be recommending a separate issuance associated with the road work. In fact, Monday, I will be meeting with our new Public Works Director, John Primus, along with our township engineer, along with Joe Celano, and we will be reviewing the work that we're proposing for this year, the additional work, which I estimate is going to be another $250,000 to $300,000. And I brought up with them, I said, if we're going out for $250,000 or $300,000, maybe we ought to look at 2 years in terms of road work. So we'll see whether they can put that together. If they can't put that together, we'll go out for the 1 year. But I presume that it's going to be a 10-year note. That it's going to be about 2.4% or 2.5%. But we'll get those figures after we've had an opportunity to meet on it.
okay. Thank you, Rich. Okay, any other questions from board members? Okay, we do have a question from the audience.
Mr. Calhoun, can you tell us, I'm
Joyce, can you?
what the balance is and what the term of this particular note is? That would be helpful to the residents. Thank
The
you.
amount that's currently outstanding is 900, or the amount that will be outstanding after the principal payment on June 25th is $928,000. And after the rate is fixed, it would be level debt service to 2023 as maturity.
2024.
Perhaps. My second mistake of the week.
That's okay. I caught them both.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, thank you, Lucian. All right, we're going to call for the vote.
Thank you.
All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, item 3B, discussion and consideration of payment in the amount of $50,832 to Spots Brothers Incorporated for the solar energy project. Rich?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We've received from Remington Vernick, and it used to be Beach back in the old days, now it's just Remington Vernick, release of $50,832 in response to our contractor's request for payment of $56,000. They are holding $5,648 out of the release. I talked to Owen today at Remington and Vernick, and he said that there were still some items with the kiosk that needed to be resolved. There was still the swapping out of the pico meters that needed to be resolved, and the contractor ultimately has to post a maintenance bond before we release the final payment. So at this point, we're asking for the release of $50,832 of the $56,000 that was requested.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay, do we have a motion to approve that payment to Spots Brothers?
Make the motion to approve the payment of $50,832 to Spots Brothers.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3C, discussion and consideration of Lower Providence Fire Company's waiver request regarding time extension for the annual Fireman's Fair. And Rich, you're going to help with that one as well?
Thank you. Lower Providence Fire Company is seeking a waiver request to allow the closing time of the annual Fireman's Fair on Friday night to be extended to 11 o'clock. And the fair ordinance currently allows that they shall only be open till 10 p.m. The dates of operation for the fair this year will be May 29th to June 7th. That's May 29th to June 7th. And it's well worth your time to go to the fair. It's a wonderful local affair. I attend it 2 or 3 times every year. And the donuts are wonderful, the homemade donuts that they make.
Thank you, Rich. Just add to that Jason and I attended the monthly meeting of the firehouse, I guess it was a month ago. That was one of the issues that they brought forth to us, that their current fair vendor was having a little issue with their obligation to a 10-day fair and having the Friday night being cut short. They wanted that extra hour. And so they were running into a little bit of conflict or issue with that. And so by this request, this will resolve that problem that they were incurring with Reithofer. So, all right. So could I have a motion to accept that waiver request for the additional hour?
You have a motion to approve the fire company's waiver request regarding time extension for the fair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dawn. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from board members?
Colleen, do we know whether or not the extra hour will burden the police force at all, require any extra overtime, or any sort of issues with the police department or coverage?
Our statements go into our schedule as last September.
Thank you, Chief.
In addition, also, Colleen and I heard at the meeting that that hour may not seem like a big deal, but a lot of money is really left on the table when they don't have that extra hour. There's a great deal of extra revenue that's spent in the later hours of the fair, and the fair is a primary funding source for the fire company. So it's a limited amount of time, but a very important hour in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. All right, moving on. We have announcements. First one being our annual Easter egg hunt will be held on Saturday, this Saturday, April 5th, at Eagleville Park. Carl's arranged for a nice sunny day, no rain, right?
Wear your boots, though.
It's muddy?
Mhm.
Okay. This event is for children ages 2 through 8, and the first age group will begin their hunt at 10 a.m. And if you need more details, you can check the township website or our Facebook page.
Colleen, I actually have some more details here.
Okay, excellent.
Age 2 starts at 2:15. They're going to be in the upper lawn.
10:15.
I'm sorry, 10:15. Ages 3 and 4 start at 10:25. They're going to be in the lower community lawn. Ages 5 and 6 start at 10:35. They're going to be on Gogler Field, which is the baseball field. Ages 7 and 8 are at 10:45, and they're down by the amphitheater.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. These events that the Park and Rec sponsors are most often are help of our business partners. And this one is sponsored by,
Lower Providence Optimist. Lower Providence Optimist Club is our big sponsor with this, as well as Penn Liberty makes some basket donations, and the Lower Providence Township Library as well is a big partner on this event as well.
okay, thank you, Carl. Couldn't do it without them. Okay. The next Park and Recreation Board meeting will meet Tuesday, April 8th at 7 p.m. The Sewer Authority will meet on Wednesday, April 9th at 7:30. And our next Board of Supervisors meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 16th. So this is a change from our normal third Thursday because of the Easter holiday, I assume, right? Okay, next up, comments and other business. Oh.
What about the billboard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so our solicitor has one item of new business that he'd like to inform us of.
Okay, and this is something that came in yesterday. If I can just, I'll give a little bit of background. This is an amendment to an existing settlement stipulation that was approved about a year ago involving an appeal of a zoning hearing board decision for the billboard that's located at 2650 Audubon Road. The billboard was approved at the time with a digital advertising on one side and I guess static advertising on the other. The request from the property owner is to permit digital display on both sides. There's been some discussion with the property owner, Mr. Gesperich and I, and staff in terms of that change in this, and the township had requested access to the digital billboard to advertise township events, community events, other nonprofit events, which we currently don't have the right to do. The property owner incorporated our requests into this proposed revision to the settlement agreement. And what I'd like to do is just go through briefly the main, you have an existing agreement, the main parts of this that will amend that agreement because this will have to be approved by the court. It'll have to be approved, I believe, by the zoning hearing board also, since it was an appeal.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chairwoman, may I say something before you get into a lot of the details? These billboards and their erection was a point of a great deal of contention and interest on members of the community, and I feel it would be prudent that we advertise it as an agenda item so that they can attend a meeting and hear the solicitor's explanation of the changes to the agreement, rather than go through it tonight and then have to go through it again after word gets around, as it were. This hasn't been advertised at all.
Well, we can certainly go ahead and do that. This is just one step in the process that they'll have to go through of the public process. How would the other board members feel? Would you like to go through and?
I mean, this is a policy issue for the board. You know, it's existing settlement stipulation. And the change is permitting the digital display on both sides of the board. So that was the request that came to the township, and I literally, like I said, we received this yesterday. The request from the property owner was to put it, have it on the board's agenda tonight as new business. You can certainly, there's no requirement that this be advertised as a hearing. You can put it out on your next agenda, but it's a policy issue for the board. However you want to handle this. This is not something that I was involved with. Billboards are always controversial, no matter where they go or how many there are. But the billboard itself is approved. It's just a matter of what the content is. So, I mean, why don't I go through the gist of this, and then you can have a discussion and make a decision as to whether or not you want to vote on it tonight and move it or bring it back at your next meeting. But the township's request for this modification was to have access for township-sponsored events, programs, or organizations, or nonprofit organizations that would be sponsored by the township. What this would do is permit the township with sign space for 6 weeks each year. So the township would have access to one side or the other 6 times for a weekly time period on there. The spots would be in 1-week increments, and the township would have the ability to have a maximum of 3 designs for each message spot. Lamar Advertising is the company that does the advertising on the billboard. They would work with township staff free of charge to create whatever artwork or design the township would want in terms of advertising those types of events. The other aspect of this would, in addition to the events, township-sponsored events, is the township would also have the ability to utilize the billboard, either side, for amber alerts, for weather emergencies, for major local emergencies, traffic emergencies, and those types of things. So that's what's being changed. Right now, the township has no right or no access to this. Because of the request, this is what's been negotiated up to this point. The only other thing on here, if the board's inclined to approve this tonight, or whenever if you're going to bring it back, is there's some minor wordsmithing that needs to be done here in terms of what would happen if Lamar is no longer in business. This needs to bind the property owner and Lamar, who does the advertising, sells the space, whoever Lamar's successor would be. So I would add that to this agreement as it's been drafted at this point. The board's motion would be to approve this, subject to my final review, and authorize me to sign this on behalf of the board. So that's the request. I apologize, it was a little late, but it was in the hands of the property owner in terms of drafting this revision after we met. I guess we met last week.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you, I, and Bill Roth met with their internal counsel and a representative from Lamar.
So John, kind of what you said, we basically have all the information that is relevant at this point. There's nothing else that would be additional?
No, there's nothing else to add. This is a request that probably came in a month or so ago. We met, we negotiated some additional terms, including the access for township events or township-sponsored events, and then the other terms dealing with access for Amber Alerts or other emergency situations. So it's strictly up to the board how you want to handle this, whether you want to approve this or not. It would go to a believe the zoning hearing board will need to also sign off on this. They may advertise this as an agenda item. I don't know. I have not spoken to them. But ultimately, it will go back to the judge that approved the original settlement agreement, which was about a year ago, March of 2015. So,
But to be clear, this was generated by a request by the billboard owner
Yes.
to advance the sign to digital. This wasn't generated by our desire to get public announcement space.
Right.
They
Yeah,
want
that
to
is
make a more profitable billboard. And there were a lot of issues about that billboard that I think the public ought to have a chance to bring up again that had to do with traffic safety. There's going to be a new on-ramp right there where they're going to be merging at high speed on a curve with a changing digital billboard right in their face. That's not the case now. I just think it deserves a little more airing rather than signing it without any warning to the public. That's my statement.
Okay, so what's the board's pleasure? Would like to move forward with this item? Yep.
Chief Carroll, do you know, does the township, and I don't believe we do, but does the township right now have any access to any kind of messaging system out there, whether it be on any other billboards throughout the township, that would advertise an Ambler Alert or some other emergency to anybody that, you know, doesn't have their home phone on them, they get the one-call system?
No privately owned. We have access to the marquee at the end of the driveway here, but
Okay.
no others. No, we don't. And there are no other privately owned. The only access is to the end of, at the end of the driveway here.
So that's on this side of the township, nothing on that side of the township?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Since it's a policy issue and if approved, would it go back to the zoning hearing board? I'm prepared to vote on it tonight.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Sorgini.
All right, then we'll proceed. I will ask for a motion to then approve this amendment to the settlement stipulation, and that would be subject to John Rice's final review. We have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions from board members? Open up to questions in the audience. Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Okay. Do we have any additional comments or other business from board members?
I have a quick school announcement. Methacton High School will be holding a blood drive next Friday, April 11th. And it's open to community members from 2:30 to 7:30 p.m. And if you are interested in donating, which would be fantastic, you can sign up online at redcross.org.
Excellent. And that's at the high school?
Yes.
Okay, thank
very
you.
much.
We could put that on our billboard. Do we have any other comments? I'll open it up to the audience. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Remember, our next board meeting is a change of date. It will be Wednesday, April 16th. Okay.
Excuse me, Colleen,
Yes.
I did want to mention that the library did have their wine tasting Saturday, and it was a dreary, rainy night, and they had nearly a record turnout. It was a great time. Any of you missed it? You missed it. It was a good time. So come next year. I'll have more details on the numbers after their monthly meeting.
Excellent, wonderful.
Put their fall beer tasting on your calendar. I'm sure they'll get an announcement about that. Don't wait for the wine tasting. They have a fall event as well. And also, I attended the Planning Commission hearing last Wednesday night. There were two items on the agenda. One was out on Petchen Mill Road, which is out behind the old Collegeville Inn. It was an agreement between two neighbors to change a boundary line It was an agreement between neighbors to avoid some litigation regarding one neighbor, and this goes back several years, built some, I want to say like a pool and an addition on their neighbor's property. So this was an agreement between them before the Planning Commission, and it was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. The other agenda item was 16 Eagleville Road. That was recently bought by a company looking to turn the residential property into a business with about 8 employees. That plan was also unanimously approved by the Planning Commission.
Thank you for that update, Patrick. For those of you following at home and in the audience, our Planning Commission activity has been picking up, so I would suggest if you'd like to stay current on those land development projects, to keep watching. There's some good things happening and some redevelopment, so that's something we're always interested in. Jason, you have anything?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing? Okay. All right. Hearing no more items, we'll call for the adjournment. Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.